let's talk about the 6-step funnel.
Sure.
You gathering information, and you say you start at the fringe.
Right. So one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they are trying to figure out what's next is they are looking at the wrong information. So for us, we start at the fringe, and the fringe is that place where academics are still testing out their theories and their hypotheses, and they're experimenting. People in DIY labs, are hacking away at something. So this is before you read about it in any of the tech blogs, and certainly before you see any information in newspapers.
You even talk about in the book about the biohackers, the people who are inserting chips into themselves.
That's right. That's right. Now, these people, so fringe is it sort of sometimes connotes a negative stereotype, and to be fair, there's a lot of fringe thinkers out there who are doing things that probably won't ever take on or become much of anything. But that's not the point. The point is, when you look in aggregate, what does this network of people and network of information and stuff tell you? And so we pay attention to scientists and technologists, but we're also looking at anthropologists. We also read sci-fi because all of that. There's a bit of interplay. And a couple of easy things people can do at home is to sign on to the USPTO. So this is the Patent and Trademark Office database, which I know does not probably did not make everybody super excited when I just said that. But
well, though there are increasingly a large number of blogs that talk about patents, right? There, and there's an Apple patent blog that watches this. There's FOSS patents. This has become a kind of a little bit of a hobby for people, I think, to keep an eye on things. I always point out that modern companies patent everything they think of. Yeah. Because they're for defensive purposes, if nothing else. So it's not always a perfect indicator of what they're planning.
No, but that's actually not. So I don't use the database that way. I don't really care what Samsung is doing next. What I care about is what is everybody chasing or working? Is everybody patenting something about AR, for example?
I got it.
In some different way, right? And the only way to know that is by looking at a lot of them.
Got it.
So and we have a little spider that crawls and pulls in content as needed. But Cult of Mac is a blog, and they always have a lot of. And there's another one called Patently Apple, if you're interested.
Yeah, that's the one I was referring to, the Apple blog.
Yeah. So looking at patents, looking at so archive arxiv.org is a great repository and it's free of academic papers on all different types of physics and computer science and stuff, and you don't have to read the entire thing.
This is cool.
Yeah, and it's cool because it's free, which is hard to find.
Yeah, most academic papers they charge you, which really annoys me.
Yeah, and I'm always advocating reading the entire thing before coming to a judgment about something. But you can read the abstracts.
You are a wonk. Okay.
Yeah. So there are all kinds of places like that. Nearly every major company has a R&D lab, and most of those R&D labs have blogs. So Google has several different blogs. Sony's like interior R&D departments have various blogs that are in Japanese, but you can use Google Translate to translate them. So the point is, don't wait. If you wait for something to show up in the Wall Street Journal, or even on a place like Recode, it's too late. You want to sort of find information faster than that.
Not only go to the fringe, but go to the source materials, really.
That's right. And as you're reading, you do what you see behind me, which is to make a fringe sketch. So these crazy bubbles on the wall, this is actually me trying to figure out something about self-driving cars. Let's see if I can.
Wow, it's huge.
Yeah,
you have a whole whiteboard wall. Holy cow.
And a ladder.
And a ladder.
Yeah. So that's me reading and creating what I call a fringe sketch. And there's this is explained how to do this because it's not just drawing bubbles. But what you're trying to do is mark down the information the facts that you find and separate what's assumption versus knowledge, and then observing relationships. And that's usually best done in a group of people.
It's almost like brainstorming.
It is, but in a very specific way. That's the first step.
Okay.
The second step is all that does is reset you to 0.
Wow. This is a lot of work. I didn't realize this was going to involve homework.
Well, it is. And the problem is most people will jump straight to number 5.
Yeah, me too.
Which is writing scenarios, which is the cool part.
Yeah.
There's stuff that happens in between. So
no, do the research. You got to do the research.
Yeah. Anyhow, the second step is to identify patterns. And you're looking for things like contradictions. Is one thing happening when something else should happen? Are people hacking away at something for some reason? Are people pushing something to extremes for some reason? The biohacking movement is a good example of an extreme. And then those are the first 2 steps. The third step is, did you screw up somewhere?
So you saw a pattern, but is it really a trend?
That's right. And the reason for this, did you screw up somewhere part is that we all come to research with our own cognitive biases. And so this is a way to help make sure that you're not seeing something that's not there, or that you're not missing something that is there.
You use as an example in the book the, what is it, Ken's triangle illusion?
Yeah.
Where
exactly.
It's really 3 Pac-Men. But because they're forming the outline of a triangle, what you see is a triangle. And so maybe that's not really what's there.
That's right. Now, philosophically, you could argue that only the triangle is there. But that's it's a whole other...
Too zen for me.
But usually what will happen is, I mean, we've observed teams and clients, they sort of get some information, they think they see something, and then they jump straight to coming up with scenario writing. And the problem is that that's a good way to follow the shiny instead of paying attention to what the trend is.
Yes.
So the purpose of this is to identify trends, but in my world, trends are never trendy. So, and that's a really important thing to keep in mind. For me to describe a trend, it could take a sentence. It usually doesn't have a cool tagline or it's not a cool catchphrase,
Right.
Anyhow, so
you have to be suspicious if it's too shiny and too sexy.
Yeah.
That's too easy. That's the mind leapt to that because that lizard mind you're talking about went, oh, I like that one.